Today, I'm going to show you one of the most unexpectedly powerful automations I've built, an AI agent that calls late paying clients so you don't have to. And I built it because I've seen too many businesses leave money on the table, not because they didn't do the work, but because the client just never paid. And we're not talking pennies. In the UK alone, late payments cost businesses £27 billion a year, and was a reason that 50,000 small businesses failed back in 2018. And most of this time, you have no choice but to leave them because repeated emails don't get through and calling clients manually is a full-time job. But what if we had something which does all the calling for us automatically in the background? So in this video, I'm first going to give you a very high-level overview so you know what it does for you. And then I'm going to give you a live demo so you see exactly for yourself its capabilities. And thirdly, if you stay to the end, I'm going to walk you through how to build it yourself, as well as all the files for free so you can plug and play. And if you're new here, welcome. I'm Harry, founder of AdSemAI.com. We help businesses across the globe automate their phone operations with advanced AI agents, saving them time, money, and headaches. If you want to see exactly how we can do the same for you, follow the link in the description and book a call. I look forward to hearing from you. But until then, why don't I show you what this agent does? So this solution, we're going to be using 4 different tools. NA10 is going to be what's doing most of our automations and triggering things for us, so it can be all run in the background. Now, that is going to be connecting with Google Sheets as our CRM. Now, you can use any other CRMs, but I'm just using Google Sheets. It's just easy to demonstrate this. We're also going to be using Vapi for our voice AI agent, which is going to be integrated with Twilio. Now, I'll explain more about what Twilio is used for in just a minute. So to begin with NA10, we're going to be checking into our Google Sheets document. Now, this is the document that's containing our client names, their phone number, the amount they're owed, and the original due date, as well as some other features that we'll add later. So if we see that the client is yet to pay, and we've also not resolved the issue yet, then NA10 will know to trigger our first agent. It's going to call up the client to remind them of the payment that's due and offer them any solutions and support as to how they might be able to make that payment. Now, when I said about this is using Vapi, it's integrated with Twilio. It allows you to use a specific phone number of your choosing as an outbound call, so it appears like a normal mobile device. Now, what's great about this is that you can use it in any country or county, region, whatever you pick, so that you can make it more local to your service and business, or you can make it general to a country, which is great for those working with overseas clients or overseas businesses. Now that integrates directly into Vapi so that we can have this agent calling from a specific phone number of our choosing. Now, at the end of that call, it produces a nice summary using AI, as well as any solution that's been decided on and a new due date, which is going to be great for allowing anyone who's overseeing this CRM just to check exactly what's going on without having to listen back through any recordings or transcripts of the call. Now, this agent also is able to say whether this issue is resolved or not, which most of the time it will be after this first call if they offer a solution, but doesn't necessarily mean they've actually paid yet. So hence we have this separate to paid. Now, if a week goes by and NA10 reads through the sheets and realizes that although we had resolved the issue with the client, they've still yet to actually make a payment. Now, this is where our second agent comes in to help here. If this is the case, NA10 will trigger another call with our second agent, which checks if they're still on track to make the payment and offers options such as an installment plan or says that they might have to escalate this to other people. Now, the great thing about using NA10 and us having access to this CRM with all this additional information is that our second AI agent is able to see the summary from the last call and know exactly the context and all the decisions that were made in order to better resolve the situation, which is great. Now, at the end of this second call, hopefully it's then able to resolve it again and it will update this last call summary. And this can be run weekly still if they're yet to make a payment. But hopefully by this point, if we can see that they're still yet to make the payment, a human can follow up because they've got all information here in the CRM to make any actions they need. But hopefully by this point, the situation will have been resolved and the client will be handling and making the payment. Now let's hear this in action. I'll go into detail in a minute about how this exactly works, but first I'll give you a demo and I'm just going to trigger this manually just to show you that. So since I'm yet to actually call yet, the idea is that this should go to the first agent and we'll see that just now. Just like that. I'm getting the phone number coming through. Put on
Hi,
speaker.
I'm Amy AI speaking on behalf of Happy Homes. Is this Harry Moore?
Yes, it is.
Hello, Harry. I'm calling regarding an overdue payment for Happy Homes services. The amount due is $100, and the original due date was the 1st of July, 2025. Could you please let me know the reason for the delayed payment?
Oh, I'm sorry. I think I just forgot.
I understand, Harry. Thank you for letting me know. Would you be able to make the payment immediately via Stripe?
Yes, I'll try to do that now.
Thank you, Harry. Please proceed to make the payment via Stripe at your earliest convenience. We appreciate your prompt action on this matter. Have a great day. Bye-bye.
Bye. And it hangs up for me, which is great. So now that I made my first call, we're going to assume that it's a week later. I haven't made any changes. And just so you see what it looks like in the CRM, we can see it's already populated the fields with a summary of what happened in the last call, the solution, which is to make a payment immediately via Stripe. So we have a solution, okay, it's resolved, but I'm still yet to pay. So assuming I never paid and this was never updated by the payment going through, then a week later, we'll have this run again. And now we'll see what happens. Ideally, we should get the second follow-up call. And it'll be a different agent on the phone. Still sounding the same though, so it sounds like it's a follow-up. And there you go.
I'm Amy AI speaking on behalf of Happy Homes. Is this Harry Moore?
Yes, it is.
Thank you, Harry. I'm calling as a follow-up regarding the $100 payment that was originally due on the 1st of July, 2025. During our last conversation, you mentioned that you had forgotten to pay, but agreed to make the payment immediately via Stripe. As today is the 23rd of July, I wanted to check if you were able to complete the payment as agreed. Could you confirm if the payment has been made or share any updates?
Yeah, I wasn't able to make the payment. I'm actually struggling to make it now.
I understand, Harry. Thank you for letting us know. We understand that things can change and sometimes it's difficult to meet deadlines. Would you be interested in discussing an installment plan to make the payment more manageable? We can work out a schedule that suits you.
Yeah, that'd be great, thanks.
Great. Let's work out an installment plan that fits your needs. How about we divide the $100 into 4 payments of $25 each? You can make these payments weekly over the next 4 weeks. Does this sound good to you?
Yeah, that'd be great, thanks.
Perfect, Harry. We'll set up the installment plan with 4 weekly payments of $25 each. Your first payment will be due on the 30th of July, 2025, and the subsequent payments will follow weekly after that. The preferred payment method is Stripe, so you can use it to complete each installment. If you have any questions or need assistance, feel free to reach out. Thank you for working with us on this, and I appreciate your cooperation. Have a great day. Ending the call now. Bye-bye.
And there you go. Now you've seen it in action, let me show you how to build it yourself. Now the first workflow is going to be what is triggering the AI agent. In this case, we're going to have 2 different agents which are going to be triggered depending on certain circumstances, which I'll go into more later. And then there's the second automation, which is doing our end of call reports. And now these are taking information from the calls and updating them back into our CRM so that we can look over them. And it gives the context for what previous calls have happened to the second agent. So to begin with, we need to set up the first automation, which is triggering the calls. Now, in N8N, we create a new workflow in the top right. And this is where we'd usually have a automatic trigger every Friday. Just for the sake of this recording and demo, I'm going to trigger it manually. This is generally what is best when you're testing with N8N, as you can run them multiple times without having to wait. But afterwards, we'll of course replace this with the automating trigger. So next, we actually need to look through our Google Sheets document to see who hasn't actually paid. So we'll search up Google Sheets, add this module, and we're going to be getting the rows in a sheet. So it's best that you connect up with your Google account. that's quite a lengthy process, but there's plenty of videos explaining how to do that, so I won't go into that now. But after you've gone and added a new credential with client ID, client secret, I'll close that. We'll then go into finding the document, which we need to get the rows from. Now, I've called this the missing payment CRM. That's this document right here. And the first sheet is going to be with all our CRM information from. Now, we actually need to add a filter into this, as we're not expecting all these rows to actually say paid. Some of them will say, yes, they have been paid, and therefore we don't need to actually run and trigger any calls at all for those. So we're going to be adding a filter here where the column we want to look for is paid, and we're looking for values that say no. Now, the great thing about NAN, if I execute that step right now, it will go and pull the information, and there we go. We get the row of data just here with empty rows, which we're going to later populate. Great. So first, we'll make sure those are connected. Now, next, we're going to have the if statement, because now we know who we need to call. We don't know whether they've called before or whether it's their first time being called. So that's where we get an if statement. So originally, when they haven't made a call, resolved is not answered. But after the first call, the aim of that call is to resolve it. And if this is yes, then we know that therefore the following calls are going to be follow-up calls. And therefore we'll have this. If this is equal to no, then it's going to be the first agent. If it's not equal to no, aka a yes, it will go and call the second agent. Now we see that here by true and false. And we'll be running this through a HTTP request, which will actually be what triggers the VAPI API. Now I'll just create two for now, just to explain how this works. So far what we have is we'll go through the table, pull out our clients, and this will be many. It'll then filter them out to see if any of them haven't had their issues resolved, then pass it to true and trigger off this API request, aka the calling the agent. And if not, it'll go through this bottom one here, which will be then calling the second agent we have, which is prepped to handle things differently. Right, for setting this up, now this is going to be basically replicating whatever request VAPI is going to be making. In this case, it is a post request. So VAPI is going to be posting a call. And the URL to get this, we can go into the VAPI documentation, and it's going to be create call, which you can see here is the post. Now this is just the URL we need, the https api.vapi.ai/call. We'll pass that back through into our URL. And for the authentication, we are going to need authentication because luckily with VAPI, everything's going to be secured, so no one else can be running these calls for you. Now we're going to go for a general credential type, and we'll be doing a bearer authentication. I've already created this. VAPI auth YouTube. Now to get the bearer token, we need to go to VAPI itself and go onto dashboard.vapi.ai/org/API keys. You can find that straight on the side under build. And now we're going to be adding a new private key. This is just going to be specifically for this. So I'm going to be calling this please delete, which I'll be removing after this video. Now we're going to allow it for all assistants, but you can just leave this blank for now as you won't have created those yet. That doesn't matter. And leave everything as default, create your private token. This we can now copy. Now this token is not something you want to actually share online, so make sure you keep this completely private. Luckily you can come back to this and copy at any time, but do not share this around with anyone. It's best kept in. So bearer token, you paste that here. We'll call this our YouTube authentication. For me, please delete, as I'll be removing this at the end of the video. Save. Close that out. And now we've got the bearer authentication here. Now, the important bit is that we're going to be sending headers because this agent needs some information. We're not just going to trigger it. We're also going to pass through some information, which we'll have in our CRM, in this case, the Google Sheets. For this to work, we need to be passing through content type. Now, just to say where this all is from, we can see here, authorization bearer, content type, copy that bit there from the documents. And its value back here is application/JSON. So you can see now here, to get this all to work, we've got the bearer authentication from this line, the content type, and then this is going to be the information we're going to be passing through. All of that, which would be in a curl request, is going to be passing through here. Now, you can import a curl directly from within n8n through this bit here, but there's a few things it doesn't quite get right, which you'd have to manually change anyway. So typically I just manually put it in, and that seems to work. Now, the actual information we're going to be sending through in the body of this. For us, we're just going to be sending through as a whole list expression of JSON rather than manually putting through every single value. So to make this easier for you, I have included in the document linked below this plug and play information here that we're going to be needing to put through, which is the assistant ID, and then the variables that we want to pass through, which all come from this table here, as well as the phone number we're going to be calling out from, and then the number of the actual customer we're going to call up. So for now, we actually don't have our VAPI agent set up, so I'll leave this blank. Make sure we hit save because this is not saved automatically. And I'll rename this as well, VAPI agent 1. Now, going to VAPI, we need to create our actual assistants. I've already made these, but I'll go through how I build it from scratch. This will be assistant 1, which is first time calling. Create assistant. Now, to save you all the time of coming up with your own prompts, I've already put together prompts of my own to input into this agent. And this just has a few things like the tone, the style, the context of information from the CRM, the role, which we're doing this as a Happy Homes estate agency. And we are also giving it end call guidelines, these sort of guardrails of what it needs from the call. And the first message is, "Hi, I'm Amy AI, speaking on behalf of Happy Homes, is this." And this is the great thing about the CRM, is that we're able to immediately phone up the client with their names. So it alleviates the concern that this might be a scam call. It's not just a random outreach. It knows exactly who they are already. Now, we're going to be using the GPT-4o cluster model, whereas obviously this will be updated a lot. So as of filming, that's the best one that I've found, but this could change in a few months' time with the progress of ChatGPT is making. I don't want the message to be too long, so I'm going to restrict it to 120 tokens. And since this is quite a serious conversation, the temperature, which is sort of how playful the AI is with its wording, I'm going to keep it a little bit lower at 0.4. That way, we're not going to be making any over-the-top messages. It's going to be quite formal. Voice configuration. I'm not going to use VAPIs built in. I find that 11 Labs is the most natural sounding voices. And in this demo exactly, I've been using Bex. That's one of the British voices. And there are loads you can add, and you can add it in manually if you have the ID from 11 Labs themselves. Now, I do find that 11 Labs Turbo has a little bit more latency. We can see that here, 250 milliseconds. So far, I found that the Flash model 2.5 works really well as well, and that brings the latency down even more. So if I hit publish, you'll see that goes down from 1050 to 875, so a lot less latency. That's just what we want. Now, additional configuration, you can go into more of this to get the speed and stability and adjust the actual speech, how you want it to sound a lot more. I won't go into that. I'm going to leave it as default for this video without making this take too long. Transcriber, that's going to be what's converting the audio the agent hears and convert it into text. I'm going to be using the Nova 3 model as the current most up-to-date one that I like. We're going to have background denoising enabled. Be able to separate them from the background better. Don't need any tools. Don't need to worry about this. We don't need to worry about that. Now, start speaking plan. That means in between a conversation, the agent will wait to start speaking. There's loads of customization you can do here, but there's smart endpointing, which is really nice to know when the user's finished. I'm just going to be using LiveKit. That seems to be really good at the moment for knowing when a user has stopped speaking. Voicemail detection, not to worry about that. stop speaking plan. So if the customer says 2 words, it will stop speaking. And I like to back off a little bit more. If the AI interrupts someone and the user caller starts speaking, it will wait 2 seconds before resuming what it's going to say. Now, the main thing here is messaging. This is going to be at the end of the call report, so we don't have to worry about that now. That is going to be useful for our next N8N automation. So we'll leave that empty. Whilst we're here, we'll clear this out. I like to pass through the transcript. That's all we need. Server messages, again, we only need one thing, and that's the end of call report. And end call message, I like to keep it a little bit less formal and leave it at bye-bye. Idle messages. If the caller stops replying, it'll ask if they're still there. I'm just going to keep this down to it'll ask one time. If not, it'll end the call after 7.5 seconds of waiting. Now, the important thing we get from this agent is the assistant ID. That way we can plug it back into our agent here, look through the JSON, assistant ID, that's the first value we can put through there. Now, because we've run the previous nodes, all the information that we're going to be filling out here should be coming through our CRM right here. So if I run that, for now I've put 44 as a phone number, as I'm not going to be sharing my real number, but I'll replace that at the end of the video when we run this. So client ID, we got that right here. This is not something that the agent's going to be calling, but it's going to be important later. Client name, we need the phone number, put that through here. Amount they're owed, and then the due date, that's the original due date. So you see it's nice, simple, drag and drop. And then customer's number, pass that through here as well. That's for actually ringing up, it needs that there. Now to get the phone number ID, we need to actually create an outbound number in the first place. This is done on VAPI. We need to go through and find our phone numbers. And for this, we're going to need to set up a new phone number. So I'll just have to hide my screen just a sec. And we'll click on the button here, which is to add a new phone number. Now, Twilio is great for this. And for that to work, we need to get our account SID authentication table, a label that can be whatever we want it to be, and the actual number we purchase. Now, coming onto Twilio itself, when you create an account, on your account dashboard, you'll see the account SID, copy and paste that. Authentication token, again, something you never share. So we'll copy these here, and I've done this already, but you paste it in to here, go back to Twilio, paste in the auth token, paste that into there, and then within Twilio, you need to purchase a phone number, come to the phone number drop down, manage, buy a number, and here you can see there'll be a lot of numbers that you can purchase, and monthly fees are about $1, so nothing much at all. And you can get them from anywhere, most countries in the world. Huge list here, as you can see. So I won't go through that now, as in order to get a phone number, you're going to have to go and provide your ID and a bit of information. It's a bit of a long process, but it's worth it in the end, and you pay next to nothing just to keep hold of that number. And then once you've purchased the number, say if we were to purchase this one, we'll copy that number, put it straight into here, and that's all you need. The account information and the number if you want to call from, and then import it from Twilio, and that will appear here for the agent. So now once you've got this number, you'll have a code here for the ID, and then that will be what we put into our VAPI agent back into the JSON. And that there is the last thing we need in order to get this first call going. At this point, it'd be good to test that it works. I've not actually put a correct phone number in, so I won't just now. So instead, I'll go on to next to show how to call our second agent. Now this is the follow-up agent. It's mostly the same process again with our first assistant. So for the sake of ease, I'm going to duplicate that one over. Top right here, duplicate. All the setup is mostly the same, apart from I'm going to be using a different prompt this time. So assistant 2, and I'm going to call this one follow up call. And then I've already got the prompts copied and pasted ready for you in the documentation below, keeping the first message exactly the same. But this time we've got a summary of the last call, the solution that was proposed, and the new due date, so the agent knows exactly the context of the previous call and just following up to make sure it's all going through smoothly. We can hit publish on that. Again, now we copy the assistant ID. We put it into here. Of course, we're going to have to set up this again from scratch. So mostly the same again as the first one. So I'll copy this workflow, Control C, Control V. Same authentication, same URL. It's a post request. But this time we're passing through some different information to a different agent. So I'll open this up. Now for simplicity, again, I've already got these copied and pasted. So paste that in. Assistant ID, that's from Vappy here. Copy that one there. Under the title. And variables, we need to get, again, the client ID, client name. All simple, just dragging, dropping the amount, due date, last call summary, solution, new due date. And of course, again, the number of the client. And we'll then need to copy in our phone number ID. I'll just get that from this other one here. Boom. So this is now a different assistant ID, and that won't be triggered. And for simplicity, let's just make that agent 2. Great. Now this means we can run and trigger all our calls on click. So if I now put in my actual phone number, we can test if this actually works. Just gonna hit save, make sure that's definitely working. Just before we run this, I hadn't actually filled in this to be no, it's because it's not resolved. And that means that when we have this if statement, it's looking for that. And for Google Sheets, it's important that when you're putting in numbers, if you're doing a plus in front of your area code, your country code, put brackets around it. Otherwise, Google Sheets will replace it with an equal sign, which is not useful and will throw errors. Now, if I run this with that corrected now, comes straight through, and there we go. Now I can cancel that because we know it works. Next, we need to build our second N8N workflow, which is going to be using the end of call report. So back to personal, create workflow, add step. Now this one is not going to be triggered by ourselves, or it's not going to be on any timer. This is what's going to be triggered exactly when the agent makes a phone call. It finishes the call, then that agent will trigger this itself. So this is going to be on a what's called a webhook call. And it provides us the URL for this. We're going to be using a test URL for now. And this will be then what we pass through our agent. So we're going to be doing the assistant number 1. Scroll down, messaging at the very bottom. Server URL, that is where we're going to send over this information. Now, the reason why we're using testing is that it will allow us to preview the data going through our N8N workflow as we're running this, and later will be replaced with production, and in which case you won't be able to see the data going through, but then you can know it's running in the background. You'd never have to click execute workflow to get it to work. Now we've got that. This should read now the information that the agent passes through to it. But we're going to try and use, for the sake of not creating two N8N workflows, we're going to use the same webhook for both agents. So this way we're going to put a filter in, which is an if statement. And now we can have it check if the ID of the assistant is equivalent to the first agent. If not, it will then say false and go on to the second end of call report. Now to get this, we're going to have to do a test call. So now we can execute workflow, make sure that this is published. That means we've got a test URL right there. And now before we run this, make sure that this is a post HTTP method. So now if we are to run this, make sure you save. First one, execute. And so that.
Hi, I'm Amy AI speaking on behalf of Happy Homes. Is this Harry Moore?
This is, yes. And that. So what would happen now? That's just gone through. Go to this if statement. All the information from that call has just come through. Excellent. Right. Now, this is where we need the ID of the agent. So assistant. If we search that up, we can see the assistant ID. And you see this one here. That's the one we just called on. We'll just double check. DBD 60 is exactly the same as DBD 60. Perfect. So now if that is equivalent to that, then we know we're getting called from the first agent. Now, this is where we can use an AI module. We're going to use OpenAI. No, we can use information extraction for this one, I'd say. And now this is the job of an agent to go and pull in some of the information that we can't get just from these call reports. These are going to be the solution, determining whether it was the solution or not, the new due date, and then also determining whether it's been resolved. Because payment we don't want yet, that's only going to be updated if the client actually makes payment through Stripe in this case. So that is not going to be touched at all. To save you some time, we're going to put in this prompt, which is, you are an expert extracting specific information from a transcript that you will receive. Now the transcript below, we need to get from here. Transcript. There we go. We'll pass this one here. Oh, expression. And transcript. So now analyze that and then extract certain attributes that we're going to get for it. So again, to save time, we're going to get first a solution. And this is again something you can copy and paste in. I provided. We need these. Another prompt. And then this one resolved. And the third attribute is going to be the new due date. And that's required. Due date is not, we're not going to worry about that being required. Now we need to add a model to run this. We use OpenAI's model. I've already got one created, but if you were to create a new account, you can go into OpenAI, you go to API keys, and you create a new secret key. And that will allow you to paste in the information back into n8n and allow you to use OpenAI's models. Just going to keep it to 4.1 mini just for now. And now using this, if we run this, because I ended up the call, it couldn't find any solution. It wasn't resolved. So because I abrupted that one, that's good. It's what we'd expect. And now we need this to update the information into the table. So Google Sheets. Update row and sheet. We want it to be a missing payment CRM. Sheet 1. Now we're going to match the rows based on the client ID. Now this is why that is useful. We don't need to update client ID number. All we need to update is it resolved? The summary of the call solution hasn't been decided in this first agent. It leaves at those 4 values. Now resolved, no solution. Simply just drag and drop. Now summary of the call, we can literally search that up. That's what ChatVapi already makes. Client ID. So this is under variable values. Client ID. And new due date. Unfortunately, since I did not say anything, we have not had that created. In fact, for the sake of this, we'll say that it is required. So that if we were to run this again, it should now provide us empty values here of no new due date. And if it's not the first agent, we're going to have... So as a result of this, if we had a good call go through, we'd have resolved, yes, which then triggers the second agent. We'll have a nice summary here. And a solution here. Due date there. All these fields will be filled out, but yet if the second call goes through and they've still not paid, that's when we just need to update the summary for what's happened in the calls if we were to call again. So this one's kept nice and simple. We don't need any of these. Sorry, we do need last call summary. Goes through the webhooks. Well, we need to run it again now just to get that. But it'll be simple as getting the summary, dragging that into here, and then it will update that field again. So therefore it knows exactly the context of the last call if it has to do repeated follow-ups. So now if you were to run this again and it was to go through false, then you'll have all the information you need in order to fill out the last call summary. For the sake of time, I'll let you work that out yourself just to see if you've actually understood it. And that's everything you need to know. Now we've got a fully operating agent. And just for the sake, we now want this to be, instead of manually triggering this, which we use for testing, we now want to have on schedule. I'm going to have it down to custom cron. And to have it trigger every Friday, we just need to enter in this here. Great, fifth day of the week, number 5. There you go. That will trigger weekly. Make sure that's all connected up, hit save, and there you go.
Well done if you made it this far into the video. Now everything you need will be found in the pinned comment down below that will help you plug and play this right into your business. But if you want anything a bit more advanced than this and directly integrated into your own CRM rather than using Google Sheets, feel free to book a call down below and I can see what I can do for you. Thanks for watching.